While watching a video of a hunting dog, I casually said I wanted to be one. I woke up as a large dog, perfectly suited for the hunt. I thought I'd show off my skills, but my owner called me a failed hybrid experiment and tried to sell me for meat. I ran away during the handoff. I dove into a cornfield and saw a herd of wild pigs destroying crops. They were tuskless sows, so I decided to try my luck for a taste of meat. I charged at the herd, but the large sows didn't even flinch. They just stared at me. Wow, you really don't take me seriously, do you? I barked to cause a panic, but one large sow suddenly charged at me. Getting hit by that massive body would hurt, so I turned and bolted. I thought I'd lost her, but she was right on my tail. I made a sharp turn along the field and accelerated to finally gain some distance. She gave up after 100 meters, but I didn't. I was determined to eat meat today, so I circled back. She charged at me again. This time I played it smart. I led her in circles toward the edge of a terrace, slowing down until her snout almost touched my tail. I suddenly leaped away, and she tumbled right off the terrace. Ignoring her, I ran back to the herd. Did they really think I'd let them stay? 3 large sows formed a line to protect the piglets. I circled them, looking for a weakness, but the piglets stayed hidden behind the adults. I feinted a turn and lunged. The startled sow turned to defend herself, but accidentally knocked a piglet out of the formation. This was my chance. I pounced, but a sow headbutted the piglet away and charged me. I turned and fled into the cornfield with her hot on my heels. After gaining some ground, I ducked into another row and lay flat. The sow thundered past me. Once she was gone, I headed back to the herd. This time, the remaining 2 sows were terrified and abandoned the piglets. I locked onto one piglet and followed it at a steady pace. Seeing me close in, the piglet tried to fight back. I pinned it instantly, bit its neck, and dragged it back toward my den. That wasn't easy, but this catch would feed me for days. Just like that, I developed my hunting skills as winter slowly passed by. I used my claws to dig a den and store potatoes and yams, occasionally catching a pig or rabbit. Survival turned me into an elite hunter. I was fast and strong, but my rapid growth made my old collar too tight. I could barely breathe, and ear mites were driving me crazy. I needed a human's help, or the collar would eventually kill me. But I was torn. I didn't want to be tied up and lose my freedom again. I feared the meat market, but a pig's scream startled me. I stood up and headed toward the sound, only to see 10 dogs attacking. 10 dogs were pinning down a wild pig. I was confused. Why were some of them wearing clothes? Then it hit me. These were hunting hounds. Where there are hounds, there are humans. Could this person help me? Whatever, I'll risk it. Living like this is pure torture anyway. I approached the pack, only to realize they weren't wearing clothes at all. It was body armor. Every dog also wore a collar with an antenna, likely a GPS tracker. I expected hostility, but the armored dogs ignored me, focused entirely on the pig. Then I saw a man climbing up the hill while a drone buzzed overhead. He reached the pack, pulling out a short blade. He plunged the knife into the pig's ribs. After bleeding it out, he grabbed his radio and said, "Number 8 is down." A middle-aged man's voice crackled back. "Copy that, Ice. It's almost dawn. Drag the pig back." Ice looked at the radio with a grimace. 3 hills away? How am I supposed to drag this back? He scanned the terrain and froze when he saw me. Holy crap, where did such a huge dog come from? I was speechless at his shock. Fine, I'll just act like a normal dog. I need this collar off first. I dropped to the ground in submission, wagging my tail to show I was friendly. Ice keyed his radio. "Jacob, there's an extra dog in the pack. A massive one. How is that possible? We usually lose dogs, not gain them." Ice was still wary, so I crawled forward on my belly, wagging my tail even harder. Ice was baffled. "What's your deal? How can a stray be this submissive?" I crawled to his feet and, feeling a bit embarrassed, rolled over to show my belly. As a veteran trainer, Ice knew exactly what that meant. He knelt down and reached out. I quickly pressed my paws over my snout to show I wouldn't bite. Ice finally understood. "Wow, where did you come from? You're so well trained. Good dog. Such a good boy." He was thrilled. He'd lost so many dogs over the years. Finding a smart dog like this while hunting was a stroke of luck. He took his knife to cut a rope for a leash, but when he reached for my neck, he stopped. The collar was dangerously tight. My God, he unbuckled it and looped the rope loosely around my neck instead. Suddenly, I could breathe again. I stood up and took a long, deep breath. Much better. Ice patted my head happily, then tied the rope to the pig's front legs and started the long haul. The pig wasn't huge, maybe under 200 pounds, but dragging it uphill alone was brutal. The other hounds just jumped around him, some even trying to bite the carcass. This was my moment to shine. I didn't want to be treated like just another hound. I wanted the pet treatment, and for that, I needed to be indispensable. I'm not exactly a looker, so I had to show off my brains. I grabbed the tow rope with my teeth and pulled with all my might. Ice was stunned. "You're actually helping?" His team had caught over 1,000 pigs in 4 years, but he'd never seen a dog help drag one. He beamed at me and patted my head. "Good dog, good dog. You don't have to help," he said, but I kept pulling. Together, we crossed 2 ridges to reach his truck. We drove for a long time until we reached a wire-fenced compound. As soon as we entered the yard, Ice went to prep food for the dogs. The others were already fenced in, but they crowded the spot closest to the stove, waiting for dinner. One reddish-brown dog even gripped the fence with its paws. It stood up and let out a series of hideous howls. This dog's bark was bizarre, not a woof or a wolf's howl, but more like a donkey's bray. I almost burst out laughing. When Ice finally brought the food over, the pack went into a wild feeding frenzy. I just stood to the side, motionless. I saw this and chuckled. "Not in a rush to eat, are you?" He scooped some cornmeal out of the pot, handed it to me, and then gave my body a firm squeeze. Not skinny at all, you're pure muscle. You've been living well. I habitually shook my head a few times. Ice noticed something strange. He suddenly grabbed my ear to inspect it. With one look, he spotted a bloated tick. A moment later, Ice had plucked the parasite off. My second problem was finally solved. I was so happy I decided to stay for a while. After all, if I got sick alone in the mountains, I'd just be waiting to die. Following these two only meant catching some wild pigs. Thinking this, I lay down comfortably on the ground and drifted off. Ice muttered, "You really make yourself at home, don't you?" The next morning, I woke up to find Ice squatting in front of me eating meat buns. I sat up immediately and nudged a stainless steel bowl toward his feet. Ice looked back in shock and shouted, "Jacob, this dog is asking me for food." Jacob ran over and squatted down too. I nudged the bowl toward his feet instead. "Good dog, what a great dog." Jacob wasn't a man of many words, but he kept showering me with praise. I didn't snatch. If they didn't give it, I just rattled the bowl and lowered my head with a pitiful look. Ice was laughing so hard, he handed me a bun by hand. I took a bite. It was delicious. The other dogs saw this and wanted some too, but they just tried to bite my tail. Ice pushed them away. The two men squatted in front of me, their discussion growing more excited. "This dog is brilliant. His original owner trained him well. I bet he's been in the mountains for 3 or 4 months. Otherwise that collar wouldn't be so tight. But how did he survive?" Jacob asked. "Look how firm his muscles are. Yeah, he's not lacking nutrition. He must have been hunting up there." I finished Ice's bun and turned my gaze toward Jacob. Jacob had a total stone face, not even a hint of a smile. Fine, time to act cute. I was after his rations, after all. I sat up straight, lifted my front paws off the ground, and pressed them together to give Jacob a respectful bow. He even knows how to say thank you. Jacob was thrilled and gave me 2 buns. Ice laughed. "He has parasites. I'll take him for vaccines and deworming." The two of them just left the kennel behind, with a few other dogs wandering outside. After a bath, a rabies shot, and some deworming meds, my fur was blown dry. I felt handsome, and even Ice and Jacob started snapping photos of me. They sent them to their group chats to brag. "Check out my luck. Found this dog in the mountains last night." But the replies were negative. "No way, that dog is too big. He looks over 100 pounds. He won't be able to run in the mountains. His breed isn't pure. He's just a meat eater, not a hunter." Seeing these comments, the usually quiet Jacob got annoyed. "Shut up if you don't know anything. This was a pet dog that survived in the wild. How could he not know how to hunt? If he's just a pet, his size alone will eat you out of house and home. Listen to me. If this dog can catch a pig, what will you say? If he can catch a pig, I'll give you my gray wolf. If he can't, I get to pick any dog from your kennel. Fine, I'll be the witness." Ice put his phone away, clearly annoyed. These idiots have no vision. He squatted back down in front of me and asked, "You really can't hunt, can you?" I nodded. Should I lose or win? I just kept nodding, but Jacob said speechlessly, "Do you really believe he understands you?" "He's just nodding because of your expression." Back at the house, Ice led me inside. He opened a cage and tried to make me go in. I wasn't having it. The next second, I pulled the leash toward the door. I headed outside. Ice couldn't win against my pulling. "Fine, let's see where you're going." A moment later, I led him to the house. I raised a paw, grabbed the handle, and pushed the door open. Ice's eyes lit up. "You really are a pet dog. You even know how to open doors." Just like that, I earned the right to stay inside. I looked back and saw Ice setting up a phone stand. He was starting a live stream. So, he's an internet influencer. Instead of jumping on the bed, I sat by his feet and poked my head toward the phone. Suddenly, a massive dog head appeared on the viewers' screens. Whoa. Where did this dog come from? Why is he so huge? Ice couldn't stop laughing. "This dog is something else, let me tell you. He's incredibly smart and friendly. I didn't even have to catch him. He followed me home on his own and even helped me drag a pig last night." A comment flashed across the screen. "Do I look like an idiot?" Ice replied, "Why would I lie to you? This dog is a genius. He does whatever I tell him. Just watch." I stood up and pointed the camera at me. I executed every command he gave without hesitation. After the performance, Ice asked the audience, "By the way, this dog doesn't have a name yet. Jacob and I are terrible at naming things. Any ideas?" Someone suggested Lucky. Ice's eyes brightened. "Lucky, I like that." He turned to me. "How about Lucky?" I thought for a second, and then I nodded and let out a bark in response. Look at Lucky's expression. He's actually thinking. A girl was so amused by my thoughtful look that she immediately sent a supercar gift. "Lucky, say thank you to the lady." I sat up, lifted my front paws, and gave a respectful bow. The girl on the other side of the screen laughed even harder and sent another supercar. "Ice, give Lucky a chicken leg." As soon as I heard that, and heard Ice's profuse thanks, I didn't even wait for a command. I sat up and bowed again. Everyone was having a blast. After the stream, Ice was thrilled. "Lucky, that's your name now. You were great." The next second, Ice kept his word. He pulled a whole chicken out of the freezer and handed it to me. I caught it in my mouth and wagged my tail. My hard work paid off. But as I walked out with the chicken, several dogs surrounded me. I ignored them. They were just little guys. Did they really think they could steal from me? Suddenly, a gray-blue dog jumped out from the fence. Just as I prepared to drop the chicken and fight, the dog turned out to be a coward. It didn't even dare get close. It just watched from the side with envy. That's how I spent my first day in my new home. Early the next morning, while I was out peeing, I saw Jacob take a call. He shouted to Ice, "Ice, feed them less at noon. We're heading up the mountain tonight." Ice asked tentatively, "Are we taking Lucky?" Even though he acted tough during the bed in the group chat, he was nervous because he hadn't seen me hunt yet. He was afraid I'd run away. But Jacob trusted me more. "Take him. This dog is Smart. If he can catch a pig, he'll be a legend. We don't have armor that fits him yet, so he can just be a support dog. They agreed, fed the dogs, and went back to sleep to prep for the night. At dusk, Ice and Jacob got up to pack there. Here, come here, Lucky. Wear this so you don't get lost. Ice put a GPS collar on me. Then he grabbed a pile of armor and collars and entered the kennel. When the dogs realized they were going to the mountain, they went wild, jumping all over. The men. Ice asked Jacob, how many catch dogs are we taking? I knew they called the armored ones catch dogs. Most were pit bulls or pit mixes. Since they take the brunt of the damage from the pigs, their armor was scuffed and stained with old blood. After all, a large boar's tusks are lethal. Since this was my first hunt with them, I decided to watch how they worked. From their conversation, I learned the names of a few dogs. There was Yellow. There was Iron Bull with his reddish fur and bare legs, and Big Guy, who had red fur and white-tipped paws. If I had hands, I'd have petted them all. When it was time to gear up, I jumped into the enclosure. The other dogs surrounded me curiously, but their attitude was friendly. There was no hostility, just curiosity. I walked over to Big Fur and looked closely. He looked exactly like a husky. But how could a husky be a hunting dog? Weren't they just sled dogs? Right then, Ice and Jacob started moving the dogs from the enclosure. They called the dogs to the truck, including me. 14 dogs were heading out, 4 of them wearing armor. I didn't want to squeeze into the truck bed, so I used my mouth to open the door and hopped into the back seat. We drove for over an hour before finally stopping. Then Jacob pulled out a drone to launch. I started his live stream and began talking. We're out protecting the farms tonight. We just arrived, and the drone isn't up yet. I brought Lucky along too. To those saying he can't hunt, just watch. As soon as he finished, the live stream connected to the drone's camera feed. Since the drone had thermal imaging, a quick scan could spot any living thing within hundreds of meters. The drone centered on the village and followed the villagers' leads, searching toward the southwest. Within 5 minutes of takeoff, Jacob shouted, Ice, we've got movement. 3 pigs in the woods below, about 500 meters out. Ice and Jacob opened their doors and got out, while I jumped straight out from the passenger side. Ice gripped a dagger and clicked on his radio as he headed toward the boars. Jacob opened the back of the truck, and a second later, a dozen dogs scrambled out of the truck bed. They immediately spotted Ice and ran toward him. Usually, the other dogs were dead silent, but Big Guy was making a sound like a braying donkey. Bear and Monster were the 2 lead dogs. They were the first to catch the scent of the boars and charged without a word. Seeing this, the other dogs accelerated to keep up. Big Guy and Black Fox, being heavy catch dogs, were much slower. They were left behind instantly. I didn't rush out immediately. Instead, I looked up at Ice. He happened to look down at me and said, go on. The moment the words left his mouth, I bolted. I'm big, but my Malinois genes give me incredible explosive power. I passed the heavy catch dogs in a few strides. Monster was in the lead. Because he has greyhound genes, he's incredibly fast, but I managed to stay right on Bear's heels. Since the dogs hadn't sighted the boars yet, they weren't at full sprint, maintaining a steady pace. Bear was second, and I was third as we rapidly closed in on the boars. Suddenly, the 3 boars spotted the dogs, accelerated, and split up to escape. Since the 2 lead dogs and I were the fastest, we pulled away from the pack. The 3 of us chased 1 boar, while Snowflake led the other dogs on a turn to pursue the others. This meant most of the heavy catch dogs followed Snowflake. On the other side, I spoke into the radio. Jacob, put the camera on Lucky. Catching something for the stream isn't the priority. I want to see if Lucky can actually hunt. Look at him go. Lucky is a beast. I was clear as day on the thermal imaging. Jacob saw me right behind Monster. Monster was flying. But just as he caught up to 1 boar, the pig, which had been zigzagging through the dense forest, suddenly stopped and spun around to attack. Monster nimbly swerved to avoid the tusks, and in an instant, the boar was chasing him. That's when Bear lunged in. The boar turned to attack Bear, and Bear led the pig on a chase for a few meters. Then Monster circled back to block the boar's retreat. The pig was stuck, paralyzed in place. I didn't join the attack immediately because this boar was only about 100 pounds. I could take it alone, but I wanted to see how they hunted. It was interesting to watch them coordinate to keep the boar distracted. After observing for a bit, I circled behind the pig. These things are strong and hard to kill with a bite. Usually, I'd chase them into a corner before striking. But things were different now. I just needed to pin it down. I hit my top speed and lunged forward. I caught the boar and clamped my jaws shut. Seeing this, Jacob muttered, don't be impatient. Wait for the catch dogs to arrive before biting. He thought I'd just scare the pig off and start another chase, but I wasn't about to let that happen. I couldn't let it escape. Based on my hunting experience, once you bite, you never let go. So, after grabbing the boar's leg, I suddenly lunged sideways, throwing it off balance and slamming it to the ground. Right then, Bear and Monster rushed in. Seizing the chance while they pinned the boar down, I quickly moved to the front. I clamped onto the boar's snout. Seeing this, Jacob shouted excitedly, Ice, look, Lucky is incredible. He has the speed of a finder, but does the job of a catch dog. Ice was overjoyed. He checked the GPS and ran toward me. I see him. This dog is so smart. He even knows to switch positions to the nose. This boar isn't going anywhere. 2.5 minutes later, Ice arrived, quickly drew his dagger, and plunged it into the boar. The boar struggled violently and shrieked. Suddenly, I heard barking in the distance. I listened closely. There were indeed dogs calling for backup. I immediately bolted toward the sound. Since the last boar had been chased quite far, I ran at full speed. With my large frame and Powerful momentum. I was the first to break through, charging toward the drone's position. Soon, Monster and I arrived. We saw a boar backed against the terrace wall, with a smaller dog barking frantically at it. This pig was huge. Definitely over 200 pounds. I didn't rush in blindly. Soon, several other dogs arrived and surrounded the boar, harassing it from all sides. Having already proven my value, I wasn't in a hurry this time. Instead, I wanted to see how these dogs worked. Just then, a small female dog, a bit too impatient, tried to lung in for a bite. The boar tossed her into the air with its snout, broke through the circle, and bolted. But with so many dogs chasing it, there was no way it could escape. Within 20 seconds, a dog nipped its rear. The boar spun around to counterattack, only to be struck again by another dog. The dog that got tossed earlier couldn't get back up, and I noticed a small gash on its ribs. This boar actually had tusks. After a 2-minute standoff, the heavy catch dogs finally arrived. The first one there was Big Guy, the one who had been making all that noise earlier. This guy didn't care how big the boar was. Without a moment's hesitation, he charged straight in and clamped his jaws onto the boar's ear. His attack acted like a signal for the other dogs circling the boar. As soon as Big Guy landed that first bite, they all swarmed the boar at once. The boar tried to shake Big Guy off, tossing him around with its powerful neck. Even though Big Guy's front legs were lifted off the ground, he never let go of that ear. I breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, the catch dogs were wearing armor, or that toss would have done more than just leave a small scratch. Now, the boar couldn't break free. The rest of the pack swarmed in, some grabbing ears and others grabbing legs. I finally understood their strategy. First, the finders with the best sense of smell tracked the boar down. Once found, they intercept it. Then, the fast bay dogs arrive to help the finders keep the boar pinned so it can't flee. Finally, the heavy catch dogs arrive to finish the job. Once they lock on, the whole pack joins in. Honestly, if the catch dogs get a good grip, it only takes a few dogs to control a boar. While I was reflecting, the rest of the catch dogs arrived. Now the boar had zero chance of escape. It could only let out a death wail. Even though Big Guy was noisy, these dogs were surprisingly brave. I started to respect them. The finders were smart, and the catch dogs were fearless. Watching the finders surround the boar, baiting and dancing around it, was actually quite a thrill. I was starting to love this game. I charged in and clamped onto the boar's snout. Ice ran over and finished it with one strike. 3 boars, and not one escaped. Ice was beaming as he petted the dogs and waved at the drone. Good dogs. What a clean sweep. Then he rubbed my head. Good boy, Lucky. You really are a lucky find. A total treasure. Jacob joined in, amazed. This dog is incredible. He runs like a beast. He's as fast as the big dogs and can pin a boar alone. He caught the first one himself. What a treasure. But I wasn't that happy. I was such a failure as a human, busy and middle-aged with nothing to show for it. Who would have thought I'd get this much praise as a dog? When we got home, Ice handed me a whole chicken and a bowl of food. You did great, so you get a special meal. After I ate my fill, I slept on the concrete steps outside. Since I was covered in mud and blood, I didn't want to go inside. Early the next morning, I was woken up by a noise. I jumped into the enclosure to see who was ruining my sleep. It was a black dog who hadn't gone up the mountain yesterday, barking for no reason. But when I walked up to him, he didn't make a sound. I lunged at him. Damn it, acting tough won't help you now. Seeing me charge, he cowered on the ground in terror. I bit down on his neck, and he let out a pathetic yelp, legs kicking as he struggled. Worried he'd wake Ice and Jacob, I dragged him by the neck into a doghouse. I wasn't going to kill him, just teach him a lesson. I held on until he was shaking and peed himself. Only then did I let go. I wasn't sleepy anymore, so I wandered around the kennel, checking the cages one by one. It turns out I'm a bit of a snob for looks. I liked Big Fluff and Snowflake the most because they're handsome dogs. Then there's Soup. He's not much to look at, but he has this adorable, goofy vibe. Looking at him, he seems like the type who'd do something hilarious while hunting. Watching these brave dogs, I made a silent vow. Just wait. Once I become a famous pet influencer, I'll get you all the best treats. Meanwhile, Ice woke up, and the first thing he did was clip a video of me catching the boar and post it to his hunting group. Look at this, everyone. Who said my Lucky couldn't hunt? Have you ever seen such a fierce dog? He has the build of a heavy dragger but the speed of a lead dog. He pinned a 100-pound pig all by himself. Ice was sending one voice message after another, looking incredibly smug. People in the group had been discussing yesterday's livestream for a while. No one expected a dog of my size to be that fast, or to have the guts to bite as soon as I caught up. Even the guy who bet against Ice admitted defeat, promising to give Ice his best dog. However, Ice was generous and turned him down. I'm just kidding, we're buddies. How could I take your prize dog? It was all in good fun. I'll buy you dinner another day. Another group member was even bolder. Ice, name your price. Sell Lucky to me. If he goes hunting with you, a big boar might kill him, and that would be a waste. Just treat him like a horse, and don't take him up the mountain. Stop talking nonsense, Ice replied. Lucky is smarter than me. He won't get killed. He's not for sale, not for any price. I wouldn't sell him for $1 million. I looked up at Ice. Was he serious? Not even for $1 million? Am I really that valuable? After chatting in the group for a bit, Ice started his live stream. I sat right by his side. Hey everyone, we got 3 boars last night. Ice stroked my fur while praising me nonstop to the viewers. Thanks for the hot air balloon gift, Sarah. I already gave him a chicken leg. Lucky gets a whole chicken, the only dog in the kennel with that kind of treatment. I remembered Sarah. She sent several sports car gifts last time and specifically asked to give me A chicken leg. I had to show my gratitude, so I stuck out my tongue, forced a smile, and started waving my front paws. Just then, someone asked to join the audio. This person was clearly a big spender with a high account level. Ice greeted him. Hey, Mr. Lee. Ice, is Lucky for sale? I'll give you 10 grand. What are you saying, Mr. Lee? Any other dog in the kennel? You can have if you want it, but sell him? I haven't had enough of Lucky yet. I definitely can't give him up now. If you really like him, come over and visit for a few days. All right, I'll check my schedule. And come visit. One last suggestion. Lucky is so smart. You should teach him some tricks and post videos on the platform. He'll definitely go viral. Hearing this, my eyes lit up. No wonder. He's a top donor. He's got a great eye for potential. But Ice was puzzled. But I don't really know how to film videos. Mr. Lee patiently explained. Just post them like you do on your social feed. Besides, you post videos to the group often, right? Going viral takes time. First, you need to build up a portfolio. I'll listen to Mr. Lee. Lucky is a natural performer. Let me show you. Ice pointed his phone at me. A few simple commands followed, but they felt too easy. I decided to up the difficulty myself. I stood on my hind legs and even did a full spin. After the spin, I went into a front leg handstand, finally walking around using only my front paws. The viewers in the live stream were completely stunned. This dog is amazing. He's got a whole routine. A wave of small gifts started pouring in. As I was bowing to thank them, I shouted excitedly, "Thanks for the big plane, Mr. Lee." Hearing someone send a big plane, I immediately stopped bowing. I dropped my front legs, stuck my butt in the air, and slammed my forehead against the ground. Ice burst out laughing. This dog knows how to kowtow. How did you train him? The big spenders were amazed too. I felt a bit embarrassed for getting a kowtow just for one big plane, so I did another one. As Ice's voice thanked him, I slammed my head on the ground again. Seeing this, Mr. Lee spoke up. He voiced what everyone was thinking. A dog this human-like is rare. But Ice, you can't just laugh. You're doing it wrong. You can't just let the dog perform without giving him a reward. Other trainers give a treat for every trick. Lucky is smart, but you can't keep skipping the rewards. Hearing this, I really wanted to kowtow to him again. He was spot on. Mr. Lee really understands dogs. I barked twice at Ice. Then the big spender continued. Seriously, Ice, take good care of Lucky. If you handle this right, he'll make you famous. And in today's internet age, if you're famous, money isn't an issue. I get it, boss, Ice replied. From tomorrow on, Lucky gets whatever treatment I get. That's not enough. The stuff you're too cheap to eat must go to him first. What? I'm ranked behind the dog now. They chatted a bit longer before ending the stream. They sat down to eat while I stood by. Ice ate a rib, then spat the bone onto the floor. I looked at it, thinking, what's this? You're giving me bones? Secondhand ones at that. I couldn't take it. I tried to curse him out, but it came out as a low growl. Jacob laughed, looking at me. All right, no bones. Jacob split his meat and steamed bun in half for me. Satisfied, I bowed to Jacob, then gave Ice a sharp side eye. Ice looked hurt. Lucky actually glared at me, but Jacob turned serious. Let's talk business. We're going up the mountain tonight. Same spot. The villagers say there aren't just 3 boars. There are at least a dozen. We'll go tonight and finish them off for good. That evening, they started gearing up the dogs. While putting my GPS tracker on, I asked, Jacob, should we order a set of armor for Lucky? Let's do it. Lucky is brave enough to engage. Armor will keep him safe. With his build, being a lead dog is tough, but he's perfect as a dragger. We had the same pack as yesterday. After the GPS was on, I sat in the back seat as usual. Soon, we reached the same spot. They launched the drone to search. The drone's battery was almost dead, and we still hadn't found any sign of the boars. Jacob drove to a new position. Right then, the drone finally picked up several glowing heat signatures. From the drone's view, they were at least 400 meters away, separated by a ravine. Jacob quickly told Ice, we've got movement. They're here. But it's all rough terrain, hard to walk. Ice looked at the screen and gritted his teeth. We have to do it. I'll head out first. Once I clear this ridge, you release the dogs. That way, I won't be left too far behind. Jacob agreed. Ice grabbed his short blade and walkie-talkie and got out. I thought to myself, why make it so complicated? I'll just go over and pin the boars down myself. The second Ice stepped out of the car, I bolted. I vanished into the dark night in a few leaps. Ice didn't have time to stop me, so he shouted to Jacob, quick, track Lucky. Where is he going? Jacob turned the drone around and flew back. He caught me scaling a peak, leaping off a cliff, and then jumping onto a rock ledge over 6 feet high. Jacob was completely stunned. Holy cow, this dog knows kung fu. He turned to Ice. Lucky is heading straight for the boars at top speed. Keep moving forward. If Lucky can hold them, I'll release the pack. If he can't hold them, just bring him back. Ice turned on his flashlight and hurried toward me. Meanwhile, using my sharp sense of smell, I pinpointed the boars and closed in fast. When I was less than 100 meters away, I slowed down, creeping forward with caution. Watching this, Ice and Jacob were thrilled. Look at that. Lucky is a true hunter. He slowed down near the boars so he wouldn't spook them. That stalking technique is something only wild animals do. None of our other dogs know how to do that. I didn't realize I was shocking everyone. I just kept following the scent. As I got closer, I saw a whole sounder of boars. Not a single one was on guard. They were all asleep. I circled around them, planning to drive them back toward the men. When I got within 10 meters, they finally noticed me. 6 or 7 boars bolted, and I immediately gave chase. I didn't overtake them immediately, but kept pace behind them. Jacob was amazed. Wow, Lucky is so smart. He's herding the boars back. The live stream viewers were equally shocked. I chased the boars to the edge of the cliff I had passed earlier. Suddenly, I started barking loudly and accelerated, trying to force them over the edge. But they weren't stupid. They wouldn't jump unless they had no choice. The pack split to the sides. I went full throttle for dozens of meters, right onto the heels of the biggest boar. Unexpectedly, that massive boar suddenly whipped around and charged at me. I knew his tricks. The turnaround charge is a classic. I pulled a sharp turn, and suddenly, he was chasing me. I led him on a chase for about 50 meters until he stopped. When I turned back, I didn't confront him head-on. Instead, I circled toward his rear. No animal wants to expose its back. Seeing how difficult I was to catch, he charged again. This time, I used a series of zigzags, leading him in circles. Jacob was mesmerized. He didn't even release the other dogs. He just wanted to see how far my performance would go. Ice marveled. I don't even know what to say. Lucky is a beast. Type it in the chat. He's playing with that boar like a toy. Instantly, the screen was flooded with "Lucky is a beast." One big spender even sent a massive gift. Meanwhile, the 200-pound boar chasing me was starting to lose steam. As his stamina faded, fear set in. He turned to run, but while he was tired, I was just getting warmed up. I easily stayed on his tail. This time, he didn't fight back. He just fled. I tried to corner him and drive him off the cliff, but he refused to go. I realized I had to apply more pressure. I lunged forward and bit down hard on his ear. Ice, who had just climbed over a ridge, saw the live stream and shouted, "He's got a hold. Jacob, release the dogs." Jacob didn't hesitate. The dogs in the truck had smelled the boars long ago. They were already frantic. They scrambled out of the truck, the lead dog sprinting ahead. Meanwhile, the boar tried to gore me with his tusks, but I predicted his every move. I knew he'd try that move. The next second, I lunged in a different direction and bit down hard on his big ear. Stung by the pain, the boar tried to flee again, but I wasn't about to let him go. I was determined to face him down and force him over that cliff. Panicked and blind with fear, the boar didn't even look where he was going. As I closed in again, he leaped straight off the cliff. I stood at the edge. I looked down and saw him trying to get up, but one of his front legs was already broken. With him immobilized, I finally found a gentle slope to climb down. I had actually driven a boar off a cliff. Jacob shouted to the stream, "Did you guys see that?" Lucky wanted to drive him off the cliff from the start. He was shocked the height wasn't enough to kill the boar. Jacob had already cursed in disbelief a dozen times. The live stream chat was exploding. No one could believe a dog could use tactics and terrain like this. By the time I reached the bottom, the boar was sitting on the ground, unable to move. Just then, Ice caught up. Ice turned out to be a tough guy too. He pulled a blade from his arm sheath, ready to finish the boar off. Fearing the boar might injure him in a final struggle, I rushed forward and pinned the boar's ear again. Suddenly, the sharp blade plunged into the boar. After a few struggles, it went still. Ice immediately grabbed my head and cheered, "My boy, how are you so incredible?" I tilted my head back proudly. This was just basic stuff. But for him, I had to make sure the video looked good. After all, this performance was for the fans and the big spenders in the chat. Soon, the rest of the pack arrived. Even though the boar was down, they swarmed it, tearing at the carcass. Jacob told the viewers, "You all saw Lucky's performance, right? I'm speechless. He's a beast." Then he checked for other boars. Jacob spotted another boar that had fled earlier. Using the drone's GPS, he measured the distance at about 200 meters. It was worth a shot. He called Ice on the radio. There was another boar 200 meters away. Actually, the lead dog had already caught the scent. A second later, the lead dog bolted, followed by a dozen others forming a long line of pursuit. I joined the chase, running alongside the lead dog. This boar was very alert. He started running before we even made eye contact. But boars are slow on uphills, and I caught up to his rear in no time. Suddenly, the boar whipped around to attack. I twisted away instantly. The lead dog and another fast attacker behind me also dodged quickly. Right behind them was a dog wearing heavy armor. It was a heavy-set dog named Rex, usually quiet and obedient. He showed zero fear facing the boar. In an instant, he clamped his jaws onto the boar's ear. The boar let out a piercing squeal and thrashed. The boar swung his head so hard, he sent Rex flying, but Rex refused to let go. At that moment, the lead dog dove in and bit the boar's front leg. The lead dog wouldn't fight a boar alone, but once the heavy hitters engaged, the rest joined in. Another armored dog, Tank, moved in and grabbed the other ear. I seized the opportunity to bite a back leg. I planted my feet and pulled back hard. With one leg lifted off the ground, the boar's struggle weakened significantly. Finally, the whole pack of a dozen dogs swarmed him. By the time Ice arrived, he didn't even need to use his knife. Even the biggest dogs couldn't find a spot to get a bite in. Ice marveled at the sight while Jacob packed up the drone, ended the stream, and came over to help drag the boar. We got back late that night. Jacob went to get food. When he returned, Ice had already fed the other dogs. Jacob got out of the truck with breakfast. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my bowl and followed him. Jacob just smiled and said, "Eat up. I got the chef to make some low-salt meat buns just for you." "You really know your stuff, Jacob." I nodded in satisfaction. While Ice was eating, his phone kept buzzing. Their hunting group chat was exploding because someone had recorded the clip of me driving the boar off the cliff. The clip was sent to the group. Since they're all professional hound hunters, they knew exactly how valuable this footage was. The discussion exploded instantly. After all, that sequence of moves showcased my brilliant mind and superb hunting skills. This isn't just a dog. He's as smart as a human. I have to admit, our hound's hunting skills usually can't match wild animals, but this guy is even smarter than the wildlife. I'm moved to tears. Ice, with your personality, how did you manage to find such a good dog? After swallowing a bite of his bun, Ice fired back passionately. Have any of you ever seen a dog this good? He's a top-tier lead dog, a heavy hitter, and he can take down a 250-pound boar. If I didn't have a good heart, could I have found a dog like this? Lucky came home with me because he saw how righteous I am. No joke, Lucky is the best hunting dog in the country. Anyone who disagrees can come out and challenge us. I wouldn't trade this dog for a mountain of gold. I nodded, satisfied. It's good that you know my worth. Soon, Ice was exhausted. He patted my head and said, if anything happens, wait until I wake up. I was tired too. I ate an apple and went to sleep. Not long after Ice fell asleep, someone called him on a video chat. Annoyed, Ice answered, what? I'm sleeping. You'll have plenty of time to sleep when you're dead. You'll be dead and your bones will be rotten before I die. After some bickering, Ice lost his patience. Hurry up and say what you want. I'm busy for the next 2 days. If you want to see Lucky, no way. You can't even see my wife, let alone Lucky. Your wife? If she finds out, she'll scratch your eyes out. How did you get so lucky to find this dog? If he were mine, I'd build a shrine for him. I'd bow to him every morning when I wake up and every night before bed. I'd kick my wife to the side and sleep with him in my arms. Lucky is right here. If you want to bow, you can bow to the screen. I climbed onto Ice's bed to see who was talking so sweetly. When Lee saw me on the screen, he got excited. Lucky, come play at Uncle Lee's place for a few days. Since he was being so nice, I had to respond. I stuck out my tongue and softened my expression into a smile. Lee was delighted. So cute. In a couple of days, Uncle Lee will come visit you. Then he turned to Ice. Seriously, Ice, you have to take good care of this dog. You're so careless. I'm afraid you'll lose Lucky or ruin him. You absolutely must take care of him. Ice turned serious. Fine, I get it. I'll take care of him. After hanging up, he saw me with half a sausage in my mouth. I snatched it away. No more of these. They're unhealthy. We'll buy real meat and make our own sausages. When I heard I was switching from processed sausages to pure meat ones, I immediately took the old sausage over to the other dog's kennel. I gave my food to the other dogs and even knew to throw the wrapper away. He's truly a spirit in a dog's body. Unbelievable. A dog treating other dogs. Seeing this, Jacob quickly grabbed his phone to record. Yesterday's video wasn't even out yet, and today's footage was already here. The two of them tinkered for a long time before posting. The first video was of my hunt. I watched it for a bit. To be honest, Jacob's editing skills were mediocre. It felt messy and lacked any real appeal. The blood-pumping passion of the hunt didn't come through at all. On the contrary, the content he edited for me made some fans wonder who this new addition was. Seeing my performance, they were stunned, guessing I was some legendary hound. Ice explained in the comments and posted a photo of me. In the photo, I was sitting upright like a portrait, looking very sharp with my large ears standing tall. The comments section was instantly flooded. My God, he actually knows how to stalk. Pigs aren't actually stupid. Their IQ is high for animals, not much lower than a dog's. But Lucky's intelligence is a total wipeout. This is so satisfying to watch. One dog taking down a 250-pounder. Ice laughed as he read the comments. How did my dog end up at your house? I spent the whole night chatting in the group, laughing his head off. Mostly he was just showing me off, nearly causing a riot in the group. But since he was taking such good care of me, Ice needed. I always played along when he wanted to show off. The next morning, it started drizzling. Even though it only rained for 2 hours, we couldn't go up the mountain tonight. Just then, Ice got a call saying some friends were coming over. He got up to find Jacob. I said, Captain Wong is coming today and wants to join us for a couple of days. Jacob replied, that's fine. Get the portable fence ready and clear some space. I'll call around to find a good spot for 2 teams to hunt together. Soon, 2 cars arrived outside. One of the cars was packed with dogs. Ice welcomed them with a smile, while Jacob forced a grin. Captain Wong was a stout man. With that build, he clearly wasn't a field runner. He was likely the drone pilot and commander. As soon as he arrived, he started looking for me. Ice, show me where Lucky is. Ice turned to call me, but I stayed on the concrete steps. The ground below was soaked from the rain. If I can stay clean, I won't choose to get dirty. Seeing me refuse to move, Ice quickly explained. Lucky is very obedient. He just sees the rain and doesn't want to come down. Captain Wong didn't mind. It's normal for dogs to be clean freaks. He walked toward me and marveled. What a huge dog. He must weigh over 100 pounds. He reached out to pet me, but I tilted my head to dodge him. You came empty-handed? I gave him a side-eye. Captain Wong didn't get the hint and reached out again to pet me, asking Ice, did you really just find him? You didn't buy him. Ice replied, would I lie to you? You're a hunter too. Do you think I could teach a pet dog to do what he does? Captain Wong nodded, agreeing with Ice. Then, he released all of his own dogs from the car. The 2 groups of dogs watched each other curiously through the fence, while I was surrounded by the humans. These guys didn't bring any treats, yet they kept talking and touching me. One rubbed my head, another pulled at my skin, and someone even peeled back my lips to check my teeth. Annoyed by the fuss, I squeezed through the crowd, opened the door myself, went inside, and closed it behind me. The men looked at each other in shock. He's actually annoyed with us. Jacob then quickly pulled Captain Wong aside to help edit videos. Since they didn't know how to handle social media at first, Captain Wong had been the one teaching them. With his help, a video was finished quickly. Jacob posted it immediately. After resting and finishing dinner, they started loading the dogs. I was a mandatory addition to the team, but with Captain Wong's dogs there, we could bring fewer of our own. Since Captain Wong brought his elite squad, Jacob only picked our best workers. Big Head and the young pups had too little experience for this. For such a powerhouse team, we needed a high difficulty target. Jacob screened his intel and picked an area where boar activity was most frequent. Jacob drove in front to lead the way, with the others following. Ice looked back at me in the rear seat. You've taken over the whole back seat. I used to lie down back here. I rolled my eyes at him. Be glad I'm not sitting on your lap. Soon, the cars stopped near a village, and the two groups gathered to plan. Jacob said, this village has been hit hard by boars. Ice and I came once before, but didn't catch anything. The boars here are very alert. You guys search the left side of the road, and I'll take the right. Immediately after, two drones took off, one heading left and one right, doubling the search efficiency. Within 5 minutes, they spotted a boar. This one won't work. It's too close to the village. Use the drone to flush it out and see where it runs first. We couldn't release the dogs too close to the village. If the boar got chased into the village and hurt someone or damaged property, it would be a nightmare. Even at night, people are still moving around. Since boars are alert, they run when they hear the drone's buzz. That was Jacob's plan. The boar ran about 300 meters and then stopped. Jacob raised the drone's altitude to find a path for the dogs. Ice remarked, these pigs are already spooked. They'll be hard to catch. Jacob replied, we have to try. They're too close to the village. Since their main job was crop protection, not just streaming, even if they didn't catch the boar, they had to drive it far away. I suggested, should we release Lucky first? Let him pin one down, and once he's in position, we'll release the others. That way, if the boars scatter, it'll be easier to manage. Jacob nodded in agreement. He then discussed it with Captain Wong. Captain, the distance is far, and I'm afraid the pigs will bolt. Let's drop Lucky first to hold them, then release the rest, just like in the video. Captain Wong was eager to see my performance. As soon as we arrived, Ice opened the door and let me out without a second thought. I had already caught the scent and heard their plan. I immediately sprinted in the right direction. I couldn't lose face in front of these strangers. Ice started his live stream, chatting with the viewers while following behind me. Watch Lucky's performance. Everyone, do you think he can pin the target? Just then, Jacob shouted excitedly. It started. I turned, planning to take a long detour like last time to drive the boar back toward them. I made an extra wide circle today. Since the boar had already been spooked once, I had to be cautious. I circled directly onto the mountain behind the boar. The viewers saw my movement and started shouting that the dog was running away. Jacob disagreed, yelling back, he's not running. Lucky is circling to drive it back. He's too smart. Captain Wong watched the drone feed in envy, thinking that top-tier lead dog didn't even begin to describe me. The boars didn't notice me. I crossed the ridge and climbed up the back of the slope. Even the inexperienced viewers finally understood my intent. Those who knew the craft were full of praise. Jacob started shouting with excitement, Captain Wong, get ready to release the dogs. At that moment, I reached the crest. I pinpointed the boar's location by scent and charged straight down. The boar was startled and bolted, but as I got closer, I realized there was a massive tusker. The big male boar suddenly turned around to confront me, protecting the sow and the piglets. Looking closely, I saw this boar's tusks were exceptionally long. Taking him down would likely injure several dogs, or even be fatal. Jacob saw this and yelled, it's a big one. Lucky can't hold it alone. Release the dogs now. Instantly, both trucks opened their cages. Over a dozen dogs scrambled out of the cars. They soon formed a straight line with the lead dogs in front and the heavy hitters behind, racing down the field paths. But I didn't wait for them to arrive. I made my move early because I didn't want the other dogs to get hurt. This boar had a high, ridged back with bristling fur and upturned tusks. He easily weighed over 300 pounds. He was definitely not to be messed with, so I had to exhaust him first. I darted past him toward the piglets. Seeing me go for his young, the boar charged at me in a blind rage. He crashed through the cornstalks with immense power. I accelerated to full speed, leading the boar on a chase while I pursued the piglets. I couldn't lead him too far, or the other dogs would tire out just catching up. Thinking of this, I pulled a sharp U-turn and led the big boar back. But he wasn't stupid. Wild animals know how to conserve energy. Seeing that the piglets were safe and I was driven off, he stopped chasing. Since he stopped, I went back to taunt him. Jacob saw what I was doing. He's staying close to where the boar down. This dog is too brilliant. Because we were on flat ground, I had plenty of room to maneuver. I kept circling to nip at the boar's rear, forcing him to spin in circles. Soon, I had him so frustrated that he started chasing me relentlessly. He realized how persistent I was after a short chase. He tried to stop and run the other way again, but I wasn't letting him go. I lunged forward and bit his backside, scaring him into turning back to attack. But the moment he turned, I let go. I kept baiting him like this. Although the boar was powerful, his massive body and the high-intensity sprinting were draining his stamina. Every turn we made was at a full-speed sprint. The big boar was now panting with his mouth open, drool dripping from his jaws. I also stuck my tongue out to cool down. Jacob marveled. Lucky is incredible. His movement is flawless. He hadn't been hit by the boar even once. Meanwhile, the pack led by the other dogs arrived. The lead dogs began baying to call their teammates the moment they saw the target. The boar panicked instantly. I accelerated into a full sprint again, but I didn't lunge for a bite this time. This tusker was too big. I had to wait for the heavy hitters to arrive. They wear armor to tank the damage. The lead dogs today were all pros. None of them were reckless. They just kept harassing the boar from a short distance. After a few dozen meters, the boar couldn't shake them and turned to face them. The 5 or 6 lead dogs circled him, barking incessantly. It didn't just annoy him. They kept testing his defenses, forcing him to spin around nervously. The dogs didn't just stand there either. Some barked in his face to draw his attention, while others lunged to intimidate him or circled behind to keep him moving. Seeing this, Jacob shouted into his mic, "The lead dogs are here." The skirmish before the final takedown is always the most thrilling part. Just then, the fastest mid-tier dogs, Black Tiger and Stiff Leg, were the first to reach the battlefield. Stiff Leg had an old leg injury. His leg might have healed shorter or the joint was just stiff because he ran with a chaotic, lopsided gait. As Captain Wong says, he runs 6 with the left, 7 with the right. Yet, he was still the second to arrive. Black Tiger suddenly took a testing bite, but the big tusker swung his head and knocked him aside before trying to flee again. I saw my opening, surged forward, and clamped my jaws onto the boar's hind leg. The boar whipped around violently to attack me, but this time, I refused to let go. The centrifugal force of his sudden turn actually lifted all 4 of my paws off the ground, swinging me through the air. Because I was swinging, the boar couldn't find me when he turned his head, but his legs still hurt like hell. He spun the other way, but I just hung on behind him. As long as I didn't let go, he couldn't bite me. He was smart, though. Realizing he couldn't shake me, he actually tried to sit down and crush me. I really didn't see that move coming. I'd never seen a boar do that before. He actually managed to press down on my head. I quickly let go and pulled my head out from under his rear. This move genuinely pissed me off, but even in my anger, I wasn't stupid enough to challenge his tusks head-on. That brief delay allowed several heavy hitters to charge in. Stiff Leg lunged first and latched onto one of the boar's ears. I immediately circled around Stiff Leg to go for the boar's nose. One of Captain Wong's heavy hitters grabbed the other ear. The boar thrashed his head in pain, but with 2 dogs anchoring him, he had no room to swing. The threat of his tusks dropped instantly as I bit his nose. No matter how big the boar was, he could only howl helplessly. A second later, over a dozen dogs swarmed him. The latecomers couldn't even find a spot to get a bite in. Jacob shouted with excitement. "Holy cow, Lucky is incredible." He pinned the hind leg alone to stop the boar, then went for the nose. "Ice, go get the gear. Brothers, we took down this big tusker so easily." Everyone, spam, "Lucky is the GOAT" in the chat. The viewers were loving it. The screen was flooded with praise and a nonstop stream of gift effects. That was satisfying. Any dogs injured? I started checking every dog that had blood on them. I was the first one he checked. My face was covered in blood, but it was all the boars. Ice checked me thoroughly, even looking at my teeth. Then he checked the others. Jacob confirmed, no injuries. Now, where did the other boars go? Let's pack up the dogs. The rest of the sound has run too far. We'll have to drive the trucks to catch them. Someone come help drag this boar. The 2 of us can't move it. Soon, the stout Captain Wong hurried over. He was panting heavily, but he actually managed to get the boar moving. He was out of breath, but that didn't stop him from working. Captain Wong showered me with praise. Lucky is just too good. This dog really knows how to use tactics. He knows exactly when to chase and when to stop, I said proudly. If I hadn't brought him home, he could have survived on the mountain alone. Catching boars of any size would be easy for him. Meanwhile, Jacob had already mapped out the route. The current location was 200 meters from the nearest release point. But this time, I said, 200 meters? 200 meters it is. Let's release them all. We can't let Lucky do all the work. The trucks moved quickly. 2 trackers went ahead on foot, and the others released the pack together. The dogs surged out of the crates like tigers. It was the same sound from before. 3 sows leading 6 or 7 piglets. This time, I didn't rush to pin one. I followed the lead dogs at a leisurely pace. It wasn't that I was tired. These pigs just weren't a challenge. Sows are far less capable than boars. At the same size, boars are more aggressive and counterattack harder. Sows panic the moment they see dogs. Sure enough, with dozens of meters still to go, the sows abandoned the piglets and bolted. Once the pack caught up, everything went chaotic. Several dogs broke off to chase the piglets, even Big Bear. Only I and one of Captain Wong's dogs went after the big ones. But I soon split off from him because I wanted to take down another one myself. Guided by the scent, I accelerated to full speed. The target was running through a cornfield. In a straight line, it couldn't outrun me, but because it had a head start, it took several hundred meters to catch up. Then, I clamped my teeth onto a small sow's rear. The pig squealed in pain, but didn't dare turn to fight. It only wanted to struggle and flee. But once I've got a grip, can you really escape? I easily took down the 100-pound pig. I looked back. Good grief, I'd chased it 2 kilometers out. I saw another dog holding down a pig solo, barking for help, but no backup was coming. The other dogs were all busy, and some heavy hitters were already eating. They ignored the lead dog's barks. Seeing the situation, Ice ran toward me first. Good boy, good boy. After praising me, Ice pulled out a rope. He quickly tied up the pig. The moment I saw it was secure, I bolted to support Captain Wong's lead dog. But during the time I waited for Ice, that pig and dog had wrestled. Another few hundred meters up onto the terraced fields. Even though it was night, running this much burns a lot of energy. I was hot, so I ran with my tongue out to cool down. Unfortunately, unlike humans, who can dissipate heat through their skin, a dog's cooling system is tiny. On the other side, Jacob saw me charge out again and started narrating passionately to the viewers. Lucky is incredible. He's rushing to the battlefield. This is his 3rd pig tonight. Once he locks onto a target, it's over. I've got nothing to say except Lucky is the GOAT. Everyone, give Lucky a like. Thank you, East Bro. For the carnival gift. East Bro has gifted so much tonight. You're spending too much. Just tell me if you have any requests. But before East Bro could speak, my image appeared on the screen. The thermal imaging was crystal clear. I looked like a bolt of lightning streaking toward the fight. But I was getting tired. I'd fought 3 consecutive rounds, including that 20-minute solo battle, and then ran another 2 or 3 kilometers. As I neared the battlefield, I slowed down to recover some strength. Jacob saw me slow down and got worried. Lucky is slowing down. He might be exhausted. Don't push yourself too hard. However, when I reached the scene, I didn't attack immediately. I stretched and lay down on the ground. As long as the pig didn't run, I wouldn't move. Jacob got excited again. Lucky is tired. He needs a break. But this is the first time I've seen a dog dare to lie down at a time like this. He picked up his radio and said to Ice, "Ice, Lucky is in position. Get the other dogs over there now." Ice radioed back, "Copy that." Meanwhile, the pig was exhausted and stood its ground, staring down the lead dog. The lead dog had been barking for so long with no backup that she almost gave up. But my arrival gave her fresh confidence, so she kept baying at the pig while calling her teammates. I rested for 20 minutes before standing up to stretch. Lucky is up. Let's see what he does. A second later, I charged from the side and nipped the pig. Startled, the pig naturally bolted the other way. I followed at a steady pace, but the other lead dog got impatient. She caught up and bit the pig's rear. This pig was completely terrified now. It didn't dare fight back and only wanted to run. When it stopped after being bitten, I stepped up to poke at it again. But this time, I deliberately blocked the lead dog to give the pig some space. This way, the pig could run further, right toward the rest of the pack. Jacob looked like he'd seen a ghost. Do you see that? Lucky is herding the pig back. Have you ever seen a dog this smart? This pig was about the same size as the one I caught solo. I could have taken it down alone, but I didn't want to waste the energy. How do you beat a dog that plays tactics? Even the viewers were joking that I should be sent to college. East Bro went totally wild and sent 10 high-value gifts in a row. Jacob kept telling him to stop, but it was no use. On my end, I heard the pack approaching. I didn't even need to herd it anymore. I let the pig stop and wait. Once the heavy hitters and the rest of the pack arrived, I lunged in and clamped onto the pig's ear. For these dogs, as long as someone makes the first move, they'll all swarm in regardless of the risk. I initiated, and they followed instantly. The exhausted pig had no strength left to resist. Less than a minute after the heavy hitters arrived, I let go and went to rest on the side. Target down. Perfect catch. 3 pigs down. Lucky, you're the best. It turned out the dogs brought today were all elites. Before Ice even arrived, they had already finished the pig off. Half an hour later, Jacob spoke up again. We've got more. Another target. They found another one so quickly. It shows just how infested this place is with wild pigs. The team gathered to study the route. There was a dense forest near the target. If I drove the pig into the woods, it would be harder for the dogs to chase and dodge. Plus, these 2 pigs were quite large. I spoke first. We still need to release Lucky first. Let him hold one down to start. I agreed with a bark. Jacob added, Lucky probably doesn't like the woods either. He shouldn't drive them that way. A moment later, I jumped out of the truck alone. As soon as I got out, Jacob told the stream, watch this, everyone. Lucky's signature move is coming. The wide flank to cut them off. My path was clear. I cut through the thicket and chased the pigs toward the edge of the forest. Surprisingly, when the 2 pigs saw me, they were arrogant. They actually hesitated before running. Jacob shouted, Ice, release the dogs. Lucky is in position. Both trucks opened their crates at once. The dogs scrambled out, with the handlers close behind. The situation was a tense standoff. Jacob and the team were ready to clear the area, but suddenly, a dog named Bella squeezed through the pack and clamped onto a pig's ear. She held on with a death grip. The pig thrashed its head in pain, lifting Bella's front legs off the ground before bolting. The other dogs chased it to the edge of a steep embankment. The drop was too high, and the pack hesitated to jump. When they hit the bottom, Bella lost her grip. As she stood up, the pig charged straight at her, lowering its head. With a powerful thrust, the pig tossed Bella into the air. Enraged, the pig stopped fleeing and began a brutal counterattack. Watching through the drone, Jacob shouted in a panic. The dog's getting hit. She's getting mauled. The other dogs couldn't get down there, but I could. As the pig launched its second attack on Bella, I leaped off the embankment. I sprinted over and bit the pig hard right in the groin. It let out a piercing squeal and abandoned Bella to turn on me. I tried to circle it to stay out of reach. Unexpectedly, the pig lunged so hard it tore its own flesh right out of my mouth. It froze in agony. Jacob finally reached the bottom, using the drone's lights to see Bella. He grabbed his radio and yelled, Ice, get here fast. Bella is injured and leaking blood. It looks bad. A few brave dogs finally jumped down, but they lacked the weight to engage. Ice arrived and slid down the slope. He drew a short blade, tossed the sheath aside, and charged the pig. I was stunned. What was he planning to do? Was he really going to duel a wild pig with a knife? Seeing Ice's determination, I rushed in and clamped onto the pig's ear. Its massive tusks were inches from my unprotected neck. It was incredibly dangerous without armor. A second later, Ice moved in from behind and literally mounted the pig. He grabbed its mane with one hand and drove the blade home. He plunged the knife into the pig's ribs with lightning speed. The pig shrieked, trying to shake him off. Lucky let go. Ice patted my head as he jumped off the beast. Ice has handled over 1,000 pigs. His technique is surgical. He aims for the heart and lungs in one strike. Once he lands a hit, the pig isn't going far. Sure enough, after I let go, the pig ran barely 10 yards before collapsing. Ice checked me first for blood, then ran to Bella. I followed. She's a sweet, quiet dog, and I like her. Ice inspected her, and I let out a sigh of relief. Her belly was sliced open, but her intestines were intact. She could be saved. He immediately pinned her down. He pulled out a surgical stapler and began closing the wound like he was using a heavy-duty stapler. Bella was so brave. She didn't struggle at all. Then, the rest of the team arrived. Everyone pitched in to help. Lucky is so brave, they said. If he hadn't jumped down to save his teammate, Bella would be dead. The viewers were full of praise for me. They saw I wasn't just smart, but loyal. I only jumped back in at the end to protect Ice. But Ice was worried about Bella's condition and quickly addressed the camera. That's it for today's stream, guys. We have to get Bella back for emergency treatment. 2 men used their jackets as a stretcher to carry her to the truck's back seat. I gave up my seat for her and sat on the floor. Hunting is dangerous. Even with armor, it only covers half the body, leaving the belly exposed. Bella just had terrible luck today. I saw Bella's breathing was steady. Once we got home, everyone rushed to carry her down for treatment. First, they re-stitched the wound, then gave her anti-inflammatory shots. As long as it doesn't get infected, she'll be fine. I watched from the side, feeling bad for her, so I brought her a sausage. But she wouldn't eat. Ice patted my head and said, "Look, Lucky is so smart. It's like this dog is human. He feels for Bella, and he even knows which pigs to pin. He'll take down a sow without tusks easily, but he usually avoids the boars. So, today he only jumped in because he saw I was in danger." I looked up at him, thinking, at least you realize it. But he was reckless too, rushing in to finish the job before the dogs had control. After I ate my fill, I stayed by Bella's side to keep her company. If anything happened, I'd go get help. The next morning, she still wouldn't eat, drink, or move. I found a bowl and bit open a bag of milk. I pushed the milk over to her. To a dog's nose, milk and sausage are irresistible, but Bella only managed a few sips. It looks like she'll need a long time to recover. Just then, Jacob shouted, "Ice, your private messages are exploding. Fans are asking about Bella. Why don't you start a live stream to give them an update?" A second later, Ice grabbed his phone. He looked at it and, wow, hundreds of messages, mostly from women. He'd never had this kind of attention before. Usually, even 20 messages was a lot. "All right," he said, "I'll explain everything." So, the team brought me back and started the stream. "Hi everyone, I'm the technician from the farm. I'm the one who was poking the pig with a toothpick yesterday. Since so many fans are asking about the injured dog, I'll give you all an update. Don't worry, the wound is treated. With some rest, she'll be back to her old self soon." The fans in the live stream all breathed a sigh of relief. While the stream was still going, Captain Miller and his crew were ready to leave. The team went outside to see them off. Miller patted my head and asked, "Still want that wife? I'll bring her over in a few days." I rolled my eyes and barked at him, basically calling him an idiot. Miller laughed and drove off. Ice then began tidying up the kennel. At dinner, Jacob suddenly told Ice that a guest was coming tomorrow. The next day, a visitor indeed arrived. He immediately went for handshakes and hugs. Jacob, being a bit shy, called him Brother Danny. But Danny replied, "We'll talk in a bit. First, I need to see Lucky." "Lucky, I'm here." The chubby guy rushed toward me, grabbed my head, and gave me a big kiss. "Lucky you are. Just so precious. I'm your brother Danny. Nice to meet you." Since he liked me so much, I decided to give him some face. I stuck out my tongue, gave him a smile, and offered my paw. "Good boy. I bought you so many treats, toys, a new bed, a bathtub, and a hairdryer." After bonding with me for a while, Danny went to check on Bella. Finally, he went over to talk to Jacob and Ice. "Jacob, Ice, what work do you need me to do?" "Work? You're a guest. We can't make you work. Are you staying at a hotel or here at the kennel?" "The kennel, obviously. He was here to visit, but it was going to be a long stay." Jacob said, "Then you can share a room with me." By evening, Ice was preparing the dog's food, and Danny was helping out. Since Danny had arrived, everyone got a special meal. Ice chopped beef into small chunks and boiled it with cornmeal. The dogs had never tasted beef before, so they inhaled the meal like starving wolves. Because they were fighting for position, things got chaotic. Snowball even started a fight with a younger dog. I eventually had to step in to suppress the riot. After dinner, Danny brought out a large plate. Then he fetched some warm water to give me a bath. I figured having someone serve me was a good thing, so I sat obediently in the tub. Seeing me enjoy it with my head tilted back, Ice couldn't help but sigh. What kind of person raised this dog? He's so used to being pampered. Normally, no one would love a mutt like this so much. But Danny had a different opinion. How could they not? Lucky is so smart. After my bath, Danny went to work on the kennel. He didn't mind the mess at all and worked hard just to stay. But Jacob still thought he was just here for fun, so he found a spot and planned to take him on a real hunt. He wanted Danny to feel what it's like to trek through mountains and haul pigs, hoping he'd give up. However, hearing about the mountains made Danny extremely excited. "I want to be Ice's right-hand man." But Jacob said, "The roads here are jagged and hard to walk, and you can't see at night. Follow the pig haulers first to adapt." Soon, Ice and Jacob went to sleep. Unexpectedly, Danny was too hyper to sleep and kept feeding me and the others snacks. By evening, the moment the pickup truck pulled up, all the dogs stood up in their cages. The big ones were barking like crazy. Just by seeing the truck, they knew they were going to the mountains to catch pigs, so they were all thrilled. But while the others were excited to put on their GPS collars and armor, I turned my head and dodged. Ice looked at me nervously. "I don't want to take you, but don't run away. If you disappear, I'll cry myself to death." I knew the GPS wasn't because he feared I'd get lost. but because he feared I'd run back into the mountains to be a wild dog again. But since I wouldn't wear it, he had no choice. You can't force me. When we left, Danny insisted on being the driver. He really was a night driving pro. We arrived half an hour early. Then Jacob made a call, and a few villagers came out to provide the approximate location of the boars. A villager shook Jacob's hand. Those boars are arrogant. They sneak into the village to steal livestock feed. If an elder or a child runs into them, it's too dangerous. You must help us take them all out. Jacob agreed firmly. Don't worry, we'll get as many as we can. He launched the drone toward the target area. Soon, he located the boars in the woods outside the village. Man, there were a lot of them. Danny followed Jacob's directions and drove close to the woods. But the forest was large and dense, so they decided to let me go in first to flush the boars out. As I got out, I patted my head. The woods are thick, stay safe. I entered the forest at a steady pace and quickly found the boars' frequent paths. The bushes on these trails were all trampled and broken. I let out a roar to intimidate them. Hearing the noise, the boars began to move. Everyone look, now entering the field is our team's #1 hunting dog, Lucky. Since I'm a very large hunting dog, navigating the dense forest was difficult, but watch how I handle it. By now, the villagers had gathered to watch. On the other side, I kept shifting positions to drive the boars, trying to keep them moving in a straight line to exit the thicket. However, when a boar herd is large, especially with big males, their confidence is high. This meant they didn't seem panicked by my herding. Although the viewers in the live stream were confused watching me run back and forth, the veteran hunters and hardcore fans loved my technique. After 30 minutes of driving, the boars finally emerged from the dense woods. But there were several patches of forest nearby, and they could easily slip back in. So I shouted loudly, "Release the dogs." Quickly, all the dogs charged toward the boar's position. A few minutes later, Rex was the first to break through the brush. The moment he saw the boars, he started baying. The other dogs heard the baying and locked onto the location, all of them charging toward the field as the barking grew louder.